The following presentation is a production of Ride the Wave Media.
Hello and welcome to Practically Magick. I am Courtney Pearl. Today I'm your Celtic folk witch, and today I have Lady Glinda and Othello here as healers and to come and talk to us about their different modalities of healing, specifically with poppets. Today's episode. I'm so excited to have you on, so thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. Yeah.
I'm going to begin our episode by pulling a card. That's usually how we start. It kind of sets the tone, and perhaps this card is meant specifically for you. Perhaps it's going to be for our audience. So we'll just pull a card and then discuss what we think this card might mean. I am pulling from the Gaia Oracle deck. For those who are watching on YouTube, they can see the video. I'll show you the deck we're using. And sometimes I do tarot, sometimes I'll do an oracle deck. It just depends on the episode and what we feel like the energy needs to be. Okay. Today I have the Sacred Journey card. This is about life cycles, family, and transformation. And I love how in the artwork it has different trees kind of going through the seasons of spring and summer. And then it's like ascending as it goes too. So within the circles, they're going upward towards the star at the top. And well, clearly we're all going through some big transformations right now. I don't know about you guys.
Ooh,
yeah, I feel like the energy has been kicking my butt.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh boy.
And we got this. Well, you're going to talk about this later. I think the full moon in a fire sign. So that's like, yep.
Man, I've been feeling it. Yeah, since the last full moon and then the eclipse season. And I'm not even really that into astrology. I just have a good friend who does that and been trying to kind of pay attention. And I'm like, man, I don't know what to say about this. I just know that I feel like I wake up every morning like I'm moving in mud or something. Like I'm trying to be like, what am I even doing? What am I supposed to do today? I don't know. And I've just felt like it's been just rough.
And it's everybody everywhere. I mean, everybody I talked to is saying, I talked to my son this morning and he was talking about a lot of changes going on in his world. And like, wow, it's everywhere.
A lot of crazy energy out there right now.
Yeah.
Well, it's nice to know that we're all in it together.
Right.
Not alone,
Misery loves
right?
company. Yep.
I also want to pull a couple of extra. So I have this star deck. It's called Indie Star, and it's specifically for communicating with spirits. And I just sometimes pull it when I feel like I need more or there's, some clarity there. And it's interesting because I just pulled two words. One says true and one says daughter. So I don't know if that has if you guys have any correlation to that, but I was getting the feeling in looking at these cards that it had something to do with a daughter who maybe isn't actually your daughter, but you're like, no, they're my true daughter. Like they're somebody that I just think of as a daughter or was meant to be my daughter or something like that. Or if you feel like you are the daughter that is true somehow.
If this hasn't dawned on you yet, I think it just hit me. The origin of your poppets.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll let you talk about that.
Yeah, so I do believe what we're seeing here is I sit in the desert, I weave these poppets. They're my children. They're my babies. They're spirits. And I believe that's what we're seeing here is you're seeing my babies. You're seeing my spirits, my poppets, my daughters.
I think another thing that you're seeing there, these poppets are called Poppy's poppets.
Yes.
Poppy was her dad. We called everybody called him Poppy. He was a healer, And so a lot of the ideas and the energy that went into this project to begin with came from your connection
Exactly.
with your dad. So
We
the
wanted
daughters.
to leave a trail of his healing in this life where he's not able to any longer.
He was an amazing. I literally watched him walk up to a person that was sleeping under a tree by a gas station, take his shoes off and give them to the guy, hobble back to the truck, and his wife drove him home to put some other pair of shoes on. He was that kind of person.
He was that generous.
Yeah.
He would help anybody that needs help.
Wow.
And that was the origin of the Poppets.
He passed in 2020. And it wasn't long after that the idea for the Poppets kind of came up.
Continue on the healing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Well, and this might even possibly be just a little shout out to you that he sees you, he knows what your work is, he sees what you're doing. I think that's amazing. And that the legacy of healing continues on long after we're gone, long after, like, whatever the effects are that we've done in life, people take on that legacy.
Exactly.
Especially when you pair it with the journey card that you pulled at the start.
Oh,
This,
yeah.
this is her path. This is definitely your path.
Wow. I could not have scripted that.
I know, right? That's so cool.
That's just genuine, and there it is. So perfect. And I mean, I love that for perhaps even our listeners. And I always say when I pull a card, at any point you're listening to this episode, because people listen to podcasts, it's not like radio where you're listening to it right now, but maybe listening to this episode, years from now, this message may come at that time kind of as a way of giving you that message too, of your legacy of healing. Like that matters, that when you participate in that work, someone's going to take up on that work. Someone's going to be affected by it. Someone's going to, it translates outward into ripples you can't even foresee, right?
It does.
Exactly.
It does.
Love that. Okay.
And it's down, we have kids that are in the craft as well. So handing the stuff down to them and then watching them hand it down later, that whole when we're the ones that are the ancestors and they're the ones that are carrying it on, watching that.
We all end up in that.
Oh yeah.
We do.
That's perfect symbolism. We are descendants and we are the ancestors. We are in the link of all that came before us and all that come after us. And I would love for that to be true for my kids. My kids are at a point right now, they're very little. And when I'm like, let me tell you all about this, or let me tell you a story, they're like, Mom, this is not
I think
having
they're
it.
listening more than we think, though.
Yeah, I think
honestly,
they do.
because they can repeat these stories later.
That's true. That is very true.
Hope. It's always my hope.
Yeah.
So we're talking about different modalities, different ways of showing up. So we were going to mention the full moon is tonight. And now people listening to this, they are listening to it at a later date, which is fine. But the full moon tonight, full moon in Aries, so fire. And maybe that's kind of the energy I need. Maybe that's kind of what we're talking about, is I need like a fire lit under my butt so I can get up and like do stuff and get back to the passion and action. So I have my Healing Through Art full moon course starts tonight. And so that's going to be a really cool way to do my own ritual and participate in a group and participate in the healing cycles of the moon. So what are your kind of rituals during the full moon? What do you like to do?
We like to get our jars out, have some full moon air, water, especially with the weather.
If it's raining like tonight.
Raining.
Yep.
We'll get our tea out. We have tea that we sell, the full moon tea. We'll call in our deities, our ancestors, have some conversations, get some important messages. What else do we do that I haven't mentioned?
So I will be collecting rainwater tonight to use. I use rainwater in some of my water spirit healing practices. And so that's very important. Anytime it's raining, I got the jars out. So, and with a full moon fire sign, that kind of water, I mean, that'll be we'll use that for certain types of healings.
Yes.
Obviously,
Yes.
every full moon is different.
Mhm.
But the fire
It's a
sign
great time
and
for
the
crystals to come out to kind of get that energy out.
oh
there,
yeah,
cleanse
charging the
them.
crystals under the moon. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, and go out and dance under it.
Oh,
She
yes.
dancer.
I do. And I was just
Oh.
about to mention that. That's funny that you thought
That's
that.
amazing.
It's like you just complete everything.
We finish each other's
We
sandwiches.
do, yes. I'll go out and I will just look at the moon. I'll have this incantation, this very kind of positive healing incantation, and I just start moving. And it's the energy, it's amazing. I encourage anyone that loves to move to just get out there tonight and just move under the full moon.
You might be dancing in the rain if you're
Yes, and that's even more powerful.
Yeah. I don't mind. Clothes optional. No, I'm kidding.
However you're comfortable.
Turn off those back porch
have
lights.
to incorporate that into my ritual tonight. We do a healing through art, and we're doing an emotional process with colors. I've been doing that workshop for about 18 months, and so now I'm adapting it into like a 6-month course that everyone's going to come back every month. And
That's cool.
I don't know, just because of tonight's full moon energy, I may have to be like, now normally we don't do this, but today we feel like we got to dance. So I'm going to place it. We're going to move a little bit. Yeah. Because sometimes it just calls to you. You just have to.
It does.
Exactly.
It does.
And let me give you an opportunity to tell a little bit about your each individual kind of healing modalities and what is it that you practice.
Okay. You want to start?
Sure.
Go ahead.
So I practice Northern tradition shamanism. Northern tradition shamanism is the brand of shamanism that comes from Northern Europe. So a lot of the Scandinavian people practice this. It is theorized that the brand of shamanism practiced by the Scandinavians probably came from the Sami people, which are just to their north. So I do a lot of healing work. That's where I like to keep my focus. There are a lot of things you can do with shamanism, obviously, but the healing work, helping people with soul fragmentation or astral intrusions, those kinds of things. A lot of the work that I do is more geared towards the healing of the energy body and the spirit. A couple of things that I do are more geared towards the physical, like the water spirit healings, that kind of thing. So yeah, that's kind of where runes for divination, those kinds of things. So yeah.
Yes. Runes. I love them. Have tried to study them. I'm not there yet.
The
I
thing
put
with
a lot more
runes,
effort into tarot, but
if you think of runes as spirits, that's what changed it for me. Runes are spirits. So when you're working with runes, you have to think of them that way. And then it becomes like a 24 card oracle deck or however many runes you've got. So it's a very spirit-led, spirit-guided kind of divination method, I think.
Very sacred and ancient, I can tell. I mean, that's something that maybe I haven't felt like I've been able to give it all the attention and respect it deserves. So I have just let it sit for now. And I have my runes. I have runes made specifically from an apple tree we had to cut down in our yard. And I want to have purpose. I wanted it to have personal connection. So I have those. And my father-in-law has helped me make them, even though he is not in any way, shape, or form knowledgeable about these types of things. I had to give him symbols and tell him this is what I need carved in them and this is what I need. So he was absolutely willing to help me out because he does woodwork. Cool. But he was like, I don't know, is this right? I don't know.
You know, it's funny you figure that because my main set comes from an apple tree that her father planted that we had to cut down a few years ago. And my main set comes from that apple tree. The fruit woods are amazing for runes. I love using the
Oh yeah. And Celtic tradition, it's apple trees, and apples are very sacred. The Avalon, the Isle of Apples.
Yeah.
And all there. So I was really excited to get one of the apple tree. And also ended up making my I have it's sort of like a wand, but it has bells on it. It's for calling the barge to the Isle. And I had that made with a peach tree because that's what was available in my hometown. Was made peach orchards, so it's connected to my family line in some way, but not necessarily maybe as Celtic, but that's all right.
That's cool.
Anyway, Lady Glinda, will you please
Your turn.
impart your wisdom upon us?
Oh, I don't know if it's wisdom. So I started out researching my ancestry, and I got a lot of information on the Mayan side. That side, my father's side, that part of my ancestry. So I do Mayan astrology and divination. I really delve deep into why you are the way you are, why your children are, the females around you, what happened at conception, was it a very calm, what was going on in those adults' lives, right down to your destiny and what's going to happen. What about your children? This tells you about your children, your parents, who you are, what shaped your personality. It's amazing. It kind of tells you. It tells you about your karmic debt. The Mayan astrology is absolutely amazing. It will tell you anything you need to know about who you are and why you are the way you are.
And probably some things you didn't want to know.
Yeah. Sometimes it kind of had you some things maybe you weren't ready to hear. But you know what? How do we learn, right? How do we progress in life? That's very, very important that we get that information. I also do Mayan divination. I use sacred corn. I have a big Mayan calendar. I can tell you, I can answer questions. Sometimes I can't though, because part of the process with Mayan divination is you cast these corns and it'll tell you whether or not it will even answer the question. It's quite a process.
You do a reading to see if you're going to do a reading.
Yeah, you do the reading to get the reading. So that's kind of nice. It kind of tells you, well, okay, this isn't relevant at this moment. So they're very to the point, a group of people. They'll tell you, no, you don't need to know this right now, or you do. I also delve in my Celt side. I do a little divination. I've done a bit of the journeying, the Celtic spiral. I teach about meditation. We have meditations we do, sound baths that we do. It kind of delves a lot into that. My spell work is a lot into my Celtic side.
Yeah.
Also, and I do believe my poppets. Now, my poppets come from both a mix, the Mayan and the Celt. We'll sit in the desert and I will weave. And I'll just weave, and I keep weaving these little spirits, and we bring them home, and they find their people.
Yes.
And you can attest to that. Actually, you can attest to that exactly. But they're little tassel poppets. They're healers. They're spirits, and they're here to help heal emotions. They're here to help those that are grieving, or they had something in their life that's been traumatic, and they're just here to help.
Yes. So that brings us to how I found you. When I saw it was at Crohn's Hollow, their list of classes and different workshops that they host, and I saw your class, the Poppets class, and I thought, now I wasn't looking for anything like that. I don't even know what brought me to go, I have to go to this. I need to know more about this. And it wasn't something I was even looking for. So I signed up and I came by myself. It was kind of awkward because usually you try to find friends to go with or whatever, but I'm like, well, here I am. And I did want to go there anyway and, kind of talk to the people at Crohn's Hollow and kind of just get to know people and network and just be in the spaces. So that's fantastic. And I also needed a new cauldron, which I still need to pick one up, but that's a whole other thing. So yeah, I was able to go to the class, and I was really fascinated because you had explained how poppets, they're not what can sometimes be confused with voodoo dolls or with witchcraft in other ways. A lot of times the media or the way that dolls
Right.
in particular are portrayed in
Oh, yeah.
witchcraft, as like as voodoo dolls or as like a sticking pins to harm someone, that kind of
Right.
imagery comes to mind. And you were like, that's not what this is.
Yeah, that's
I
not
love
what
that.
it is. These are healers.
It's funny the
Great.
They
first
do
time.
no harm.
Yeah. The first time her mom, who is not on a path of magic, the first time she saw the poppets, they scared the crap out of her. She's like, oh God, those are scary. Like, no, these are not
No,
voodoo
these
dolls. These are
actually
not.
help you heal.
Yeah.
They make you
Yes.
feel better. So
No,
yes,
there's-
but there is that misconception out there. And no, we do not create anything that could harm anybody. They are protected. They do no harm. And if put in the wrong hands for someone who would want to do harm, they deactivate automatically. So they will only heal.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And then I loved specifically a lot of times in my healing work, and I do emotional process healing, I do Reiki, I do several different modalities, but I mostly engage with the Celtic cycles of healing. And that's where even in any other modality I do, it's always kind of the thread of what I do. But a lot
Right.
of times people will come to me and they're like, I've lost a loved one, I'm in a lot of pain, and that specific kind of pain or that specific kind of suffering is not something that in healing work I feel works the same way as like I've been through trauma and I would like to heal. I would like to process that trauma. I would like to, and I never say healing is fixing. I never
No.
define it that way. But that is kind of what they're looking for, is like, I'm looking to fix the suffering so I don't have to suffer anymore. And with trauma, there's a lot of ways to go to process it and to view it and to work it out where you do feel better. But grief is something so sacred.
Yes.
It's not meant to be processed in the same way. Like, it can't just be like, oh, you're just gonna feel better now. You gotta get
Not
cross.
how that works.
No.
It doesn't work that way. So I always felt kind of a little bit lost on how to help people in that way to understand that grief is actually love in a different form. And you don't heal that. You don't fix that. You don't get rid of that. You don't, So when you said grief and loss is a really big part of what the poppets can be helpful for, that was really powerful to me. And to be like, this could be something entirely its own thing
Exactly.
to be specifically for that, right? Yeah. I love that. So is it all right if I introduce some puppets that came
Of
home
course.
with me that day?
Yeah.
Of course.
Cool.
They're your puppet.
So I really didn't know what to expect. I didn't know who was gonna call out to me or what was gonna happen. This is a little handmade bowl that I got at the farmer's market that was handmade by someone in Ghana, I believe. And I just loved the
nice.
bowl so much. And I was like, the colors of it. I took it home, but I didn't know what to do with it. I was like, I don't really have anything to put in it. I don't really, I don't know why I brought this bowl home. And it was probably a week before the class.
Oh, nice.
And so I came home
Meant
with
to
these
be.
two. And if you can see on video, so those who are watching on YouTube will be able to see this, but I have two poppets here, two sisters. And these were the first two that called out to me. And I was a little surprised. I think you were too. You were like, really? Those?
I really
That's
was.
beautiful
I
ones,
saw you
but-
with other ones, and then I'm like, oh, okay then.
I'm like, all right. So I had these two, and they have like pretty much lived in this bowl ever since they came home.
And they do.
Put them
They're
in this
happy
little-
there.
Yeah. And I move them around the house because I feel like sometimes they're like, I'm bored of looking at the same thing. I've been in this room for a while and I'm bored. This is boring. And I'm like, okay, well, how about over here? I think you can see better from over here. I want to see what's going on. I mean, they're a little bit involved in the family drama and the family stuff going on. They want to see what's going on.
They can be a little demanding and
They
furious
can.
sometimes.
They
Yeah.
have some that would, and they all have different personalities. So some are kind of quirky, some are more a little more serious, some are little jokesters. It just really depends on your personality, and it's like this mutual thing. You guys choose each other.
Yeah.
And they talk to people just like they talk to you, and you know exactly where to go, and you know exactly intuitively where they want to be in your house.
Yeah. And it's now I will say that so when we did the picking out which ones were coming home with us, we did the rune reading, right? And I'm trying to remember. I wrote it down in their little book. So I don't remember the names of the runes, but the one that looks kind of like an R
Right.
and the one that looks like an M.
AWAS, probably.
Probably. I'm like trying to flip
Does
the
it look
pic-
like the straight M or the little
see
M
that.
kind of?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So
Yeah.
rider, both journey runes actually.
Yes.
Both travel journey
Travel.
type runes. Yeah.
And that's what we talked about.
Rune
Physical travel and astral travel as well, like astral traveling, which I'm a Pisces sun. I didn't know that like not everybody astral traveled. I heard of thinking that was, I'm like, you all go places when you sleep, right? Or no, that's just me. And I know there are a lot of people that do that. I just didn't realize it was something that was a part of like who I am and how I do life or what my path is. But I'll be honest, I have not devoted or dedicated time to meditation and to, the work of stillness and I felt like this was almost another I've had several experiences of admonishment where it's like, hey girl, get your act together. You're not doing it. You need to be doing it. And and maybe that's why these two sisters came home with me. I got the very distinct impression like this was an older, almost motherly sister. She's like mom over everybody. And this is the younger sister who's playful and kind of likes to screw around. So
they needed to stay together for sure. They're there in combination to help you with that work that you were just discussing.
Yeah.
And apparently that travel vibe also applies to them traveling around your house to different rooms.
Yes,
So like they got to be on the move.
They'll speak to you. They tell you what they want.
Yeah.
And sometimes they can be kind of bossy.
A little bit. And maybe I should have thought about that before I thought about taking him home and whether I was ready for that responsibility. Because I'm like, oh, now, I have three tiny humans I take care of. And now I have, these sisters I need to move around the house. And we do trinkets for offerings or sometimes bits of the food that we're eating. And my kids actually love to engage with that. And I'll be like, if you want to pick out a trinket to give, you can. And
nice.
I also made sure to very clearly preface with them, like, otherwise, until told otherwise, you don't get to touch and you don't get to play with. And it's not.
And that is hard to understand because with them being spirits, I can't just, hand them to children or those maybe not yet ready for them. It is a harder thing for younger people to understand, but the fact is they are spirits, and so we have to keep that in mind and show them the respect. So I love the boundaries you put up with the kids, but then you also involve them. I think that's amazing.
Yes, they've loved that. We also have a house gnome. Not the same spiritual sense that the love and care you put into it during your meditation and the weaving of the poppets. This was a gnome that I, got at a craft fair. Like it was just one hanging out and it has like a little cup of coffee. And I was like, oh, I'm going to take this home because it reminds me of the protection spirit of our home. It reminds me of like a caretaker of our home. So that also became kind of just part of that sort of practice of we give him offerings of food.
Nice.
He's just become kind of like he sits by the coffee machine because he has a cup of coffee. But it's also at the center of our home, which is like our hearth, right? The very center, and right next to the in the kitchen and all that. So yeah. And then I also have these two sisters, which have been a lot more out and about.
Yes.
I have these two. So this was after I had picked the first ones, and I said, okay, I've got mine. I'm good.
I remember.
Like I didn't need to keep looking. I didn't feel the need to, I was like, I'm good. But then you said, it's so interesting that you picked those because I really thought you were going to pick these, and showed me. And this one has braids.
Yes.
Right. And I don't know what it is about braids. I use braid magic in my hair, and oftentimes beads in my hair when I'm doing spells.
Yeah.
So when you pointed them out, I was like, okay.
Well, they were calling to you, and I thought that's interesting because she picked two very different ones.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'm just going to show her just to see if that was really a healing thing that you really are meant to have. And apparently that was the right fit.
I mean, it's so interesting. And I just want to put out there for audience members that are like, what are they talking about? I don't understand this. This is kind of the idea that witchcraft or spiritual work, it is just a paying attention. It's just a paying attention of prompts and urges and needs, and that, we can write it off as like, that's all make believe, or I was just pretending or whatever. But the more I've been doing this work in my life, the more I know when you feel something as strong, you feel a call or a pull, listen to it and pay attention to it, because it was exactly, again, what you said it would be. It was exactly what I experienced in that. And so I took these girls home, and again, they're a pair, sisters.
Yes.
I have a sister, and I guess that maybe what this energy is bringing forward. It's just me and my sister in my family. So sisters are very powerful.
Yes, they are.
Something together.
A lot of the Poppets like to go with one of their sisters also, or I've got sets where there's three of them, and they'll tell me they will not go with anyone unless they stay together.
And one thing I'll say about those, so you're familiar with the nornir, the Norse, kind of like the fates. They weave the threads, they protect the well, all of that stuff. Some of these poppets come through as divination poppets. I have 3 of them on my divination cloth, and they actually represent the nornir, the Urda Verdandi and Skuld.
Yes.
So that set of 3, when there's 3 that want to go together, a lot of times those are divination kind of puppets.
And our clients that will come to our booths or come to our office, they'll say, okay, I need 3. And I pull our sets out and like, oh, there it is. It's like they literally, as I'm creating these poppets, there are so many times where right when I get done, I get an email or text message or a call. One of your poppets is calling to me. And they're literally going, I mean, people have had dreams about them.
It's crazy.
And they call me, they said, I need this poppet. And I'll send the picture, like, that's the poppet.
Yeah.
So we'll ship it off to whoever, needs it. And it's kind of crazy. It is really crazy because they do talk to people. If, like you said, if you're listening, you'll hear it.
Yes. And that's exactly how I ended up with my cat. See, I wasn't looking for a cat. We had a cat that just passed away, and I was like, let's give it some time before we even think about a new cat in our life, and we were at one of those adoption things in a whatever. And oh, this little black kitten was so cute and I loved it. And I was like, oh, if I was getting a cat right now, that would be the cat. But I'm not, so I'm good. And I walked away. And it was in my dreams all night.
Yeah.
Oh, I was like, I gotta go back and get this cat.
Yeah.
And actually with my mom, I told my mom about the dream, and I told my mom, like, I live with my parents. And so I was like, I gotta go get this cat. And she's like, I'm already there. She's texting me. She's like, I'm halfway there. So yeah, I'm just pointing out that you pay attention when that's urge or call to, and quite honestly, I do believe that cat is my familiar. She is my
Exactly. I was
little
just going to say that you found your familiar.
Yeah.
I have 3 black familiars.
Mm.
And I actually didn't mean again to have more, but
It happens that way.
they called to me.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
before going into and adopting them, which ones they were. So,
Yeah.
I understand when we listen.
We pay attention. And for people listening, and especially if you're in the Salt Lake area and your poppets are at Crohn's Hollow, correct? In Salt Lake. Or is it technically Taylorsville or is it Salt Lake? I think it's Salt Lake.
Crohn's Hollow?
Yeah.
They're South Salt Lake, I believe. Yeah.
South.
It's Main Street Main and 41st.
We have some poppets at Crohn's Hollow, and we have the rest of them at our shop in Mill Creek. And then we also have them at certain markets throughout the year.
Okay. So that's for anybody listening who is in the area. I have a lot of listeners from all over the world, but in finding you and being able to find their poppet, the right one that's for them. And I really love, I'm an artist, but I'm not necessarily crafty. So I love the idea of weaving.
Yeah.
And I would love someday to learn how to do more weaving. I have an artist friend who does something called, it's not macrame and it's not weaving. It's a mixture of both, and she uses a bunch of different textures in her. So she makes these tapestries. She'll weave in crystals, or she'll weave in. I mean, she just kind of. Now she's not witchy at all. She thinks. I mean, you and I know the truth. We're like, this woman is magic. She's weaving magic. We know that,
right?
Yeah. But it's beautiful. They have these gorgeous tapestries, just absolutely stunning. I mean, I literally gasp when I see them.
Wow.
And I truly believe in that. The meditation that goes into a lot of witches in history were weaving and crafting and making things. And I truly believe, like, intentionally weaving together these the spirits with these poppets. It's a practice of calling in that magic and making that a physical manifestation of the spirit.
And you getting into the weaving is going to look very different than how I weave, and it's going to be very different. I would love to sit down with you for a little class, and I can kind of start you out on how to create, and then let you kind of take off and explore how you would create yours.
That would be amazing. That would be a dream. In fact, I've been so busy lately with so many projects and so many different things that I really feel like, okay, it's time for me to come back to sitting in my house and crafting or weaving or whatever that will look like. It needs to look a little bit more. And now winter's coming, so it's the season of, like,
perfect time.
It's a perfect time for that. So anybody thinking about that, it's perfect time. Come back into self and
exactly. We would love for anyone who needs that. We can help you figure out, what does your poppet look like? How is your poppet able to help you heal? And that's part of us being healers. We don't fix this, but we help people learn how to be okay with who they are.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I did make, after the class, I did make one poppet of my own.
Oh, perfect.
Real simple, real, just like, got some yarn I picked out, and I made it specifically, not that I was planning on making them, but I I have a very dear friend. She also has a podcast on this network. So those who know Ride the Wave Media Network, you'll know who I'm talking about. A very dear friend. And she has lost both of her parents. She's gone through a very, very traumatic year, and it was extremely hard. And she was coming up on the anniversary of her mom's death, and she was in, just really a lot of grief. And physically feeling it, feels physically ill because she was just in that state. And I just thought, I'll make her a poppet. I will do this with the intention of whatever she's needing right now, that will be infused, that will be brought in to this poppet. Now, I didn't go out to the desert, unfortunately. That would have been your way of doing it. I'm not looking to make an exact copy.
Yeah, we do a lot of stuff in the desert. Yeah.
But I did get to do it in my own meditation practice, and sat and made it and picked out like charms I could put on it, certain things I thought would be a good representation for her, and gave it to her. And she's like, oh my gosh, she not only did she feel better, I think, after that, but she took the poppet with her on the trip she was supposed to be on. Thinking she was too sick to go, she packed up and went. And she's like, "Look, I'm bringing it with me," and she's taking the poppet with her. Like,
that's amazing. I love that.
As I sit and listen to you guys talk about the whole weaving thing,
yes,
weaving. A lot of people see that as a very mundane thing. Weaving, especially in a magical context, is very strongly connected to the nornir, and I can't remember which Edda talks about this, but one of the Eddas talks about the fact that there are more than just the three nornir, the ones that represent past, present, future. People who weave, especially people who are into magic and do a lot of weaving, are literally weaving magic, and they are also norns. There's more than just the three nornir. So,
and you weave magic.
Exactly. So that's very. You guys are both norns. That's very cool.
I think it's awesome.
I would love to do more of that, but even just the, I've heard a lot of the stories about having the gift of sight or divination. A lot of women would have that when they were spinning wool, or, spinning is a very trance-inducing, repetitive movement, like looking at the flickering of a flame or scrying water. It just creates kind of a trance-like state that allows you to be able to transcend or to receive or download or however.
When I sit in the desert and I start weaving, I literally can see and I can feel spirits dancing around me as I just sit and I weave and I create. And I could see these spirits, and they're infusing this energy into these poppets to make it possible to help people heal. And it is such a magical experience. So if you find that happy place, that serene place, and you just sit and ground and you just start doing this, you will experience something that's just transformative. You really will. And I encourage anybody that wants to create a poppet or a little spirit of some kind with any kind of material, just to sit in their happy place and create this and infuse their spirit, what they need. Because isn't that what healing is about? Looking within.
Yes. Absolutely. That is so inspiring for me. I really feel like maybe more than I knew, I needed to hear this today so I could be like, again, that full moon energy is just like the fire that goes, come on, get it together, do the work, get back to what you should be doing. And maybe what that looks like for me is being less busy and being more attentive to the spiritual work, right?
Which is not easy.
Yeah.
Not easy process.
Well, thank you so much for being here today and having this absolutely amazing conversation. I think it's absolutely a hit.
Thank you for having
anybody's.
Yeah, this was cool for us.
This is quite an honor.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. All right. So to find you on your platforms, social media, please tell us where people can find you, and again, where they can find your poppets if they are interested.
So social media, you'll find us on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. If you just search for Lady Glinda and Othello, and Glinda is spelled weird, Glynta.
A.
Let's see here. And our office is in, as you mentioned, Salt Lake City, the Mill Creek area, 715 East, 3900 South. There's a big office building there. We're in Suite 103, room D.
By
It's a
appointment only.
long address.
So you can text us, and we can, or just DM us on any of our sites there. We have a website, but it's by appointment, so you can come in, check out the poppets. You can try our custom blend teas. You can get a reading in here. The shamanic work. We have a lot of services, healing services for people here.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. And I will.
In fact, last night we're doing a ritual here in the office for a person we're helping through some healing stuff. So we do all kinds of stuff here in the office.
I love it. Perfect. Okay, good. So that's reaching out to you. I will post all of the links to your stuff to be able to find you on my blog.
Awesome.
I always do a blog for each episode when it releases so that people can get some of the resource and a summary of the episode. So on my website, prism-healing.com. That's Prism, Prism, not prison. It comes across
That's a
that
whole
way
different
on
thing.
audio.
Yeah.
So Prism Healing, and I am also on TikTok, Prism Healing. I'm on Instagram, Prism_Healing. I am on Facebook, Courtney Pearl's Prism Healing. So, and any of those places you can find me, and I will make sure that I post clips and references to you, and maybe even share a picture if my poppets will allow it. I haven't asked permission yet.
Right.
If they will allow it, and yeah, so they can find us there. Yeah, I think that's the gist of it. Thank you so much again,
All right.
and I
Thank
hope
you.
to see you again soon.
Yeah.
So goodbye, witches and wizards. Thank you so much.
Bye.